Hello, this is Luca and welcome to a new Samplesound music production tutorial. Today we will analyze a popular deep house song named Marea by Fred Again featuring the Blessed Madonna. If you don't know already, you can listen to the original song on all platforms. It became really popular this year and it features this super catchy riff. I've tried to recreate the instrumental on Ableton Live 11 so that we can isolate the parts and analyze this riff, which has some distinctive traits both on the note writing and the sound design. By analyzing this sound, we will cover some basic sound synthesis techniques, which will prove very useful for contemporary deep house music production. So, let's start from a blank patch. In this tutorial, I'm gonna use Xfer's Serum, but obviously you can do the same with any reasonably powerful VST or stock synthesizer. If we listen and analyze the lead sound of the track, we can notice some kind of brass and flute nuances. So, anytime we want to synthesize a brass-like sound, we need to start from sawtooth waves. Then, we adjust the volume envelope. The attack time is really important. It has to be somewhere between 100 and 200 milliseconds. Then we set a short release, and then maybe we adjust the curves. Then we have the filter. As it's often the case, we're gonna need a low-pass filter. In Serum, I usually really like the 18 dB MG low-pass filter. So we adjust the cutoff and pump up the drive to get that warm sound. But having a static filter is never a good idea. We need some envelope modulation. So let's use envelope number 2 and do something similar to the volume envelope, but with shorter attack and release times. Then we assign the modulation to the filter cutoff. Decrease its value and increase the amount of modulation. Here we go. Now it starts getting really brassy. But we're not quite there yet. We need to make the sound bigger and wider. And the best technique to get a big dense sound, what is usually called super saw, is obviously unison. So we increase the unison voices, adjust the tuning, leave the blend to its default 75% value, this is like the dry wet, and we fully randomize the phase of the oscillators. This gives a bit of that analog feel to it, by making the start and the tone of each note slightly different. Much better now. To get also that flute flavor of the original sound, we need to have some noise, especially at the attack of the note, to simulate the puff on the mouthpiece. This is fairly easy to do. We just enable the noise oscillator and make sure it goes into the filter as the main oscillator. We can use classic white noise or something more particular. In this case, I found that the organic noise samples work really well, especially Air Can number 4. Just make sure you don't get too much of it. It's just a tiny bit, it's a detail. So, well, the core of the dry sound is pretty much there. There are obviously many other small things we can do to improve the sound, like adding another sine oscillator to reinforce the fundamental frequency and drive the filter a bit more. Then maybe we can very slightly decrease the filter dry wet in order to always let through a tiny bit of the higher harmonics. There's obviously many other things we can do to this sound, but again, the core is there, so we'll move to the effects section now. It's not difficult to realize that the original sound has a lot of effects on. The most evident is the reverb, but there's many of them. At first, I usually put those devices that intensify the effect of the unison, which are the chorus and the hyper. On the chorus, I disable the filter and the modulation, and increase the feedback value to get more of a metallic sound. On the hyper, we just increase the unison. It's just a matter of getting that super so sound, like more super, hyper. Then it's pretty clear to me that the artist put some heavy bit crashing effect on the sound. On Serum, we have bit crashing on the distortion device. So let's select downsample and adjust the drive intensity and the dry wet. No more than this, I think. After this, we have some classic EQ and compression. The EQ is just to make the sound thinner and brighter by high-passing the sound, while the compressor is to get a more uniform sound and to avoid peaks. We just put some fast attack and release values, some gain, nothing special here. And finally, we have the space and time effects, delay and reverb. The delay is in 16th notes, and it's just to get a bit of ambience and depth to the sound. It's not a strong delay effect, as the one we're gonna see in a minute, but it's a really soft one. The reverb, on the other hand, is very present. We can use a long plate reverb and adjust the dry wet amount so that the reverb will create this continuous pad-like texture, but also move the sound a bit farther in the 3D space. Just not too much. Outside of Serum, I have included some more effects. Just another EQ to cut some more bass more precisely and add something to the 1000 Hz. And another reverb and delay, which are just for the automation before the drop. If you listen to the original tune, in this point there is like a freeze effect of the lead sound. These can be obtained by simply putting a reverb and delay as insert effects, then automating the dry wet. The delay is a simple preset, just high feedback, 3/16 as time value, while on the reverb I have used the freeze function of Ableton's reverb, but really you can also increase the decay time with another automation and get a similar effect. Of course, there's plenty more you can do. For example, adding some more reverb on a return track. Then making some send automation to give more accent to some specific notes. The last thing I want to discuss with you is the Midi pattern of the riff. When it comes to making a catchy riff, the rhythmic aspect of it can be even more important than the melodic one. So let's have a look here. First of all, the song key is G sharp major. The chord progression is 8 bar long with 4 different chords, one every 2 bars. It's pretty standard. More specifically, it's a 4-5-6-1 major progression, with the sub-bass giving support to the harmony by playing the root note of every chord. Having a progression like this, which is quite typical in mainstream popular music, allows you to have a very simple riff without too many notes or a particular melody. To get a riff like this, I would recommend playing with the keyboard, even if you're not a keyboard player. Just pick some notes on the scale, even only 1 or 2, and focus on the rhythm. I mean, there's just 4 different notes playing in this riff, but really only 2, C and A sharp, make 90% of the total. So what really makes the difference here is the rhythm and the style of playing. First of all, the notes are played staccato. There are pauses between them. And most of them are really short, which, combined with the long attack values we have set on the envelopes, result in a lot of variety between notes, a lot of dynamics. Secondly, the human factor, the irregularity. If we look closer, the position of most of the notes is off-grid. I mean, there is definitely some swing, as it is in the drums and in the entire tune, but this is not just swing. Like in this section, this note and these, I mean, they shouldn't be affected by swing, but they're all off the grid. Avoiding quantization is a technique sometimes used by producers to add that unique vibe to the pattern. If we try to quantize this MIDI on a 16th grid, it immediately loses its magic. This is after quantizing both the start and the end of the notes. But even if I quantize only the start, leaving all the pauses and the staccato, it still lacks that something. Because the pattern is too regular, robotic, and as such, it can quickly get boring. As an example, I've just come up with this alternative idea and recorded the riff without quantizing. I can maybe manually adjust some of the notes. Or another option is to apply not so strict quantization. We open Ableton's MIDI quantize settings and set a 50% amount. In this way, I can keep a bit of that human factor while not being completely off the grid. And finally, I add some swing. So we've come to the end of today's tutorial, where we have analyzed this very popular deep house tune, Marea. Most of the song's uniqueness come from the main lead sound, which we have recreated on Serum. We have built this sound from scratch, analyzing every step like super saw oscillators, envelope modulation, unison and audio effects. But we've also seen that irregularity, naturalness and spontaneity are key elements here, and when combined with some proper sound design, they can make a really unique riff. So, I guess we have all learned something from this tune. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.